friends, it's Amy. Welcome to Doki Doki Forest. Now we are going to dive into Junk Journal January today, and you're thinking to yourself, but Amy, it's the end of March. Well, I know. My goal is actually to hopefully finish this journal by the end of March. I would like to do that. So for today, we have made a couple of pages, and we are starting with day 22, which is bookshelf. So as I sketch this out, let me just tell you, in case you are not sure or you've never heard of Junk Journal January, this is hosted by Meg Journals in collaboration with Get Messy Art. And you can look up hashtag Junk Journal January to see what other people are creating. And basically for the month of January, both Meg and the Get Messy Art community come out with a video each day. They have a prompt for each day, I should say first. They have a prompt for each day of January, and then they put out a video to go with that prompt that you can watch and get inspired and, go into your journal for Junk Journal January and do something similar. I still haven't watched any of the videos because what I'm doing is taking the prompt and just drawing whatever pops into my head. So, and then my idea was to go back and watch the videos later. I don't know if they're still up. I know sometimes with these things, the videos are up for a certain amount of time and then they go away. So I'm not sure if this is one of them. So if I can go back and watch, I will. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep forging ahead, doing it the way I started by just sort of doing whatever comes to mind when I read the prompt. And that's what wound up happening last year when I did this Junk Journal January. I started off not really sure what to do, and I don't even think I realized there were videos that you could watch. I just looked at the prompt, and I felt a little bit lost. And then eventually, what I discovered was if I just sort of went with the first thing that popped in and drew whatever popped in there, then that seemed to be what worked really well for me. And I loved it because, I love prompts, journaling prompts, art prompts. I love it. So whether it's Janet Nash giving art prompts, whether it's a journaling challenge like this sort of thing, I just love it. It just gives you something as a jumping off point. Sometimes you can wake up and maybe you have a plan for the day. You have something you want to do, but sometimes you're not really sure. And prompts are like just the thing to just get you to create. And not only that, but oftentimes they get you to create things that you definitely weren't thinking of creating. So I love that too. I love the fact that maybe I was going to draw and paint a dragon, but now I have to do a bookshelf. Or I don't have to. I'm choosing to do it because I want to. So it's like, well, okay, I could do a dragon bookshelf, of course. But in this case, what I was thinking of was this little nook in a tree. And the nook has become a little library of sorts. So there are bookshelves in there. And so there are some books. There's both some larger books, which you can find on the top shelf, as well as smaller books down on the bottom for the smaller creatures. And then there's also an owl who's chilling out on that top shelf reading a book. And in the middle shelf, there's a couple of books, but there's also a stash of acorns and sunflower seeds, because that's going to happen if there's some sort of a nook. There's going to be a squirrel or a chipmunk or a mouse that fills it up with a collection. And who knows? Maybe the library does include things like acorns and things that you can check out, although I don't know if you would want to borrow that and then bring it back. I think they would quote-unquote borrow it and probably just wind up eating it, But so I have acorns, and then the bottom shelf I had a couple small books, and then I just drew some little mushrooms, just some little mushrooms had popped up in there. And I decided to try to do this one a little different from the normal way that I create. Normally, I love to sketch and then ink and then paint and then do whatever details on top, like white gel pen a lot of the time, or maybe some little gold accents or metallic accents or, whatever. But in this case, I thought, what if I don't outline in ink? And even though I used watercolor as the base, I was thinking, what if I do like mostly colored pencil? And it's funny because when I was working on it, looking, straight down at it, I kept thinking, you couldn't really tell what anything was. I guess I was missing that sort of defined edge that you get, of course, with the ink. And you can definitely get a defined edge with a pencil. But there was just something when I was looking right at it, I kept feeling like, I don't know. I don't know if you can tell what this is. I don't know if it's clear. And so I kind of kept going and kept adding. And it's funny because as I was editing, I was thinking to myself, I kind of like this soft colored pencil look, And then as I kept going, I was like, you should have just stopped with the colored pencil. It was, kind of nice. So I'm not saying I didn't love it at the end, but I am saying I thought a lot about redoing this piece. I thought about, resketching it and then doing ink and watercolor because I just couldn't tell if the way I was using these colored pencils was effective. If you could even figure out what was going on in here. And especially the acorns and seeds. So I've got the acorns and I've got the little black seeds. And I kept kind of going over the acorns. And I was fussing over them a lot. And then at the end, I even wind up getting out Posca pens. And I kind of wish I hadn't done that. But, I'm kind of using Junk Journal January, or I guess any journal. I just try to mix it up, do things a little bit different now and then, and maybe figure out some new techniques. But it's hard not to fall into those old comfortable habits. I'm trying out the colored pencils, but I can't tell if they're working. And so like here, I am making things darker. Like, I think this is the colored pencil. Oh, maybe I already did it. Where I color in like behind the owl, and I made it a lot darker. And I don't know, I think I kind of liked it when it was just a softer, warm yellow tone and not so much brown. I mean, it's okay. But, sometimes you just keep fidgeting with things and you don't really notice it until the editing when you're like, I think that was good at that point. You could have stopped there. You didn't have to keep going. But, so I almost didn't glue this in the book. And in fact, I had it just kind of paper clipped in the book for the longest time, in the journal, for the longest time, as I sat there and tried to figure out, do I want to put this in? Oh, here comes it's actually not a Posca. It's a different brand that I got on Amazon that's like a Posca pen. They're thinner, but they are acrylic pens, paint pens. And I could get like a ton of green ones for, pretty cheap. So I got them to try out, and actually this is the first time I'm using them. And I do like the way they write. I think they're really nice. I was trying to make like a moss effect. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure. And then I'm adding, this is a Posca pen. I added some glitter Posca. I figured, maybe I can make some things kind of shine and glitter. But anyway, I just glued this down before I started doing this voiceover. So when I do a flip through at the end, I'll flip through and show you the page is finished. Then it'll actually be glued in there. But for the longest time, it was just paper clipped on because I was not sure about it. Okay, so next we have day 23, and the prompt was texture. So I sketched this out in my sketchbook, first of all, or at least something kind of like this. It is a little harder trying to figure out how to fit it onto the paper in the journal that I'm using, because I am using a smaller size journal. It's like a Hobonichi A6 size, which isn't super small, but for some reason, when I draw my sketches, they're coming out really big in my sketchbook. And then when I'm trying to scale them down, I'm having a bit of a hard time. So like this flamingo's legs should be a bit longer and, kind of hang way off the page. But, these will do. And then I had to really try to angle the wings so they would fit on the page as well. So it takes a little bit of maneuvering, but, we get it done. So this flamingo is having quite a flight. His wings are flying out, his legs are hanging, and his eyes are wide. I was thinking of Sir Quentin Blake and the illustrations that he does, and I love his characters. I grew up reading Roald Dahl books with I almost said Quentin Blake, Sir Quentin Blake illustrations. Wait a minute, is it Sir Roald Dahl too? Anyway, Sir Quentin Blake was a big influence of mine, big inspiration for me. One of my favorite illustrators as a child. I found and still do find his illustrations to just be so funny. The expressions the characters have, I just always loved them. The stories were so good that I was reading, but the illustrations made it. I feel like if you take those stories and put another illustrator, then it's just not the same. There was something about that combination that was awesome. So anyway, this flamingo is having, sort of a wild day. One can only imagine what sort of mischief this flamingo has gotten into. But we want to make him nice and pink. He's had plenty of shrimp to eat, so he's got nice pink feathers. And you're probably wondering, Amy, what does this have to do with texture? Well, I'm glad you asked. So my idea for texture was to get some feathers and stick them on this flamingo. Or better yet, have them kind of floating down as if they fell off of him when he took off. But I couldn't find any feathers. I know I don't really have a lot of feathers, but I thought I had a couple, but I couldn't find any. Oh, and I'm fixing the beak because the beak looked a little strange, let's be honest. So I tried to fix that. And then I thought, well, what about the legs and the feet? What if I put some glue and some glitter on there? And then we've got these like textured legs and feet. And then in the future, if I can find a feather, doesn't matter what color it is, I don't even care if it's a yellow one, I will put it on there and glue that, like it's falling out of his wings when he took off. And now I'm going to add some fabric before I glue the flamingo down, because day 24 was fabric. And you know what? I love to combine prompts. 2 prompts on one page, that works for me. So I found some fabric. I wouldn't say I have a lot of fabric to work with, but I do have some of these strips from the Dollar Tree. Now that's painty paper, so that's kind of going more with the texture part of the page. So I have my painty paper that was actually on the desk from St. Patrick's Day. I was working with this to make a page then. So I thought, oh, well, I'll rip this up and it can be like the trees or the jungle or something. And then there's flowers growing down below and the flamingo is flying up over everything. So now we have texture with the glitter legs and the painty paper, and we have fabric with the flowers. But I felt like it needed just a little something more. And that's when I got this trim pack from the Dollar Tree out. This was an Easter pack from last year. I think I saw it there again this year. So if you're interested, have a look. But I thought, oh, this would be really fun to go with the flamingo because it's pink and it's kind of a little wild. And I have never glued a little pom-pom strip in my journals before. So I thought, well, today's the day. Let's put this on. This is like, it feels like a party or something. I feel like this flamingo is like very festive with these pom-poms and the flowers. I don't know. And the glitter, There's probably definitely a story there I could tell. I didn't make one up yet though. But I think there's one there, just under the surface. But for now, let's just glue this flamingo down. We've got to try to position him so the legs are on there without getting folded and the wings are on there, at least as much as we can get them on there. But, they're going to poke out the top and the side. That's okay. That doesn't bother me. I just don't want it to poke out the bottom because when I put it on a shelf, then something could bend. But the top and the sides, that's fine. Okay, so day 25 is ombre, O-M-B-R-E. So this is like, when colors sort of go into each other and make a beautiful, color combination, the way they mix and blend together. So you can think of somebody that has like that ombre hair and, it starts off maybe black and then it goes into like a purple and then it goes into a pink and it's really pretty. Or you can think of a sunset and the way you see like the clouds and the pinks of the sky and then the blues of the sky. And then, just kind of all blends into each other. So I'm thinking of a sunset sort of color scheme, and I'm drawing this like owl dragon sort of creature. This is just what wanted to come out as I was sketching in my sketchbook. So I just went with it, because really you can make anything ombre. You can take any picture of anything. You can just do it on a page. You don't need a picture of anything now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, you could literally just paint the journal page, and it's really fun to do that kind of thing with watercolor and doing like the wet on wet technique. So if you have paper that can handle that much water, it's really fun to do a wash of water and then just add some watercolors, one stripe at a time if you want, and then just see how they all blend together as you go down the page. So you can get some really nice sunset effects doing that. But we're going to get a sunset right here on this owl. So we've got some purple going into that like permanent rose color, going into that, gosh, that yellow is not the yellow I thought it was going to be. It actually looks good when I look at it here, but when I first put it on, it looked really kind of a brownish yellow. So I was like, oof, that didn't come out the way I thought. When I looked at it in the watercolor palette, it looked nice and bright and yellow. And then when I went to use it, I was like, oh, this is a lot darker than I thought it was going to look. Which goes to show it's very helpful if you do swatches of your watercolors or Posca pens or colored pencils or anything you're going to use. But, I just went with it anyway because the other option I had on that palette was like an orange sort of yellow, and I knew I didn't want that. So I was like, we're going to make this work. So I put that on, then I put on the permanent rose again, and then the purple again, and then I went into some blues. And then I'm just adding some shading, and then I turned the shading into just another layer of the permanent rose because I felt like it was a little bit too light in some places. And that's that yellow again, but see, it looks very brownish. It looks fine down there on the branch though, I guess because it's a branch, so I don't mind that. So yeah, this little owl is just perched on this branch, just hanging out. And I just wanted the branch to be different colors from the owl. So I've got, even though I have a little bit of blue there, it's like a different blue, and then I have the green. So just to kind of make sure that you don't think the branch is part of the owl when you look at the whole thing. And then I went to put some more purple on, and a little bit more came out than I was planning on. So I'm just moving it around and trying to blend it in here and there, just like a touch of purple in among that permanent rose. And then just another layer down there. You can just build up your watercolors with however many layers till you get whatever effect you're looking for. And then I went in, I got my colored pencils out. I thought I could add a little bit of texture and also maybe just a little bit more color where I wanted it. I really wanted the colors to look like they're blending. So like I thought I can add like a little bit of pink where there's purple, and I can add a little bit of yellow where there's rose gold. So I'm trying to really incorporate the colors together. Plus, I was thinking I could brighten up this yellow watercolor that I used that I felt was a little too dark. So I'm happy with the way it came out. And I was thinking about like an 80s sunset. So I grabbed this color, which is like my favorite. It is a Prismacolor, and it is called Light Aqua, and it's perfect for your 80s sunset or just 80s vibe. So I'm kind of thinking about that as I'm coloring in this owl. These are like, pink and purple and aqua and, just those color combos remind me of the 80s. And then I re-inked it and added some white gel pen because sometimes the ink can really fade as you're covering your work with whether it's paint or pencil or whatever. So, and this background, even though I like it, it didn't go with the owl because it was too busy. So I just got some black acrylic paint and I'm just trying to put it where the owl would be. And at first I thought, well, I can leave some of the background. I can leave the edges. I just want around the owl to kind of be this black. But then I thought, oh, maybe it would be cool if I mixed in this like teal color. Or what color is this? This is like a turquoise, I guess. Acapulco, it's called. But that blended in a lot. And then I added my Opal Magic, and that looks really cool, I think. It's just so iridescent, so I love that. And again, it really does go with the 80s vibe for this owl. So you can just see it around the edges, and then I thought it looks like a night sky, so let's add some stars with I almost said Posca pen. Nope, this is not a Posca pen. This is a gel pen. So just some stars, and then I think that will do it for our owl. And the final one for today is day 26, which is translucent. And what I was thinking of was making wings, because I was thinking I could use some kind of a material that's translucent, meaning light can get through, but you can't clearly see through it, It's not crystal clear, like it's not transparent, it's translucent. So translucent is light gets through, but you don't see what's on the other side like crystal clear. So I thought, all right, I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to try to make some wings that are translucent. So what kind of creature goes with wings? Now, I know you're thinking frog, and so was I. So here is a frog, our little fairy frog or magical frog, and we are going to give this guy some wings. I absolutely love frogs. I'm wondering if I include them in just about every journal because I have just always loved them, both drawing them and in real life. They're one of my faves. So I started with green, and then I realized, I should probably do a layer of yellow first for watercolor. So I switched. So I had a little bit of green on there, but I switched it up and got some yellow. And then I just put the yellow over where I had the green. And then I'm going to add the green back on anyway. But I wanted to layer it up. So start with yellow, let that dry, then go back in with green. And certain things I thought I would leave yellow. So like the tummy and the webbing between the toes. And I think that's it. The rest will be green. I was toying with doing like all these wild colors, but in the end, I felt like I had just done a lot of wild colors with the owl on the previous page, so I just decided to go with the classic green frog. And I am just adding a little bit of blue. I am excited to hear spring peepers again. It's too soon right now, but that's one of my favorite things about spring is hearing the spring peepers at night. I feel like it's getting warm and it's springtime when you can hear them outside. It's so quiet right now outside. It's like you don't hear anything except for an owl. I do hear an owl or two. We have barred owls around here that we frequently hear, even during the daytime. So, like if my son and I are outside in the driveway and we're playing basketball, almost always the owl starts hooting, and so funny because it can be like the middle of the day, it can be the morning. It just feels like whenever we go out there. So I think this owl is like a massive basketball fan. And I colored in these are like the little frog freckles. I mean, I don't want to say warts. I don't know if frogs like them being... the frog has told me that they don't care if you call them warts or freckles. They don't have a hang-up about it. So, okay, we can call them whatever we want. So, yes, I colored those blue. And then I got out my Paul Rubens shimmery paints because I thought, I think this frog needs to have some shine. It can be a green frog, but it needs to have some kind of sparkle or shine. And you know that probably means I'm going to either get out some shimmery metallic paints of some kind or my sparkly Mod Podge. I did not get my sparkly Mod Podge out for this day. Actually, yeah, I didn't use my sparkle Mod Podge for these past few pages. So I wonder if that'll show up before I'm done. But I'm adding some gold now. I'm really enjoying this little tin. Has some really nice metallic colors. The gold is really nice. I always used my Kuretake Starry colors. Is that what it's called? It was a set of like golds and some shimmery colors, and not colors, but it was gold and like silver basically. And they're gorgeous. But I used them up except for little scraps that are left in the pans. So I got this other set on Amazon that had gold and some other colors, and I like it. All right, so we got some gold on, and now I am going to give this guy some little antenna. They're like little moth antenna, so they're kind of fuzzy. I think moths are really cute. They've got like these big eyes, and they have fuzzy faces, and then they have the fuzzy antenna, and they're really cute. All right, so here is our little guy all cut out. He's all shimmery and shiny and ready to go on the page. Now, these pages just won't do in the condition that they're in. I flipped through because I realized I have so many pages left that I could skip ahead because I have extras. But then I thought, no, I'll just keep going in order. And I had this painty paper, which I had painted actually for some frogs I drew last year. And it had just been sitting here. And I thought, I'm going to rip this up and I'm going to glue this in because this looks like the frog could be like at a little pond. And yeah, so I just ripped that up, put that in with some tacky glue because this painty paper is a little bit thicker than your regular paper. So I just use tacky glue to be safe. I use tacky glue when I'm gluing in my watercolor pieces as well, and just smoothing it out a little bit to get to the edges. You can use a card or something like that. I'm just using my finger. So I'm covering up those pages. I decided I could do a double page spread because like I said, I got extra pages, may as well use them. So I'm going to give this frog a double spread. He's got like a centerfold, only it's not in the center. And then we're just going to rip these edges off because the edges are white and I don't really like that. So I like when they're white from being ripped and you get that like white paper look, but I didn't want to leave them the way they were because you could see like the end of where I painted and there was like that hard line. So I wanted it to be more flowy. So here's our frog, and now we have to make some wings. So I had this bag that I had received some stationery in, and I feel like it's perfect because you can see through it, light can get through it, and yet it is not 100% clear. Because at first I was going to use a bag from a sheet of stickers, and that's completely clear. So I was like, well, that's not right because that's not translucent, right? That's like completely clear. So I figured these ones are as close as I think I can get to having that effect. So I used my Posca pen and drew some wings. And now we got to figure out how little Froggy is going to go on this page. And then once I figure that out, I'll glue the wings down first and then the frog on top. So of course, I fiddled around with it, moved the frog around all over the place, and then eventually settled on this little spot here because I figured the way the book closes, it's okay if that wing folds. And I did not glue the wings down. Or rather I should say, like, the wings themselves weren't glued. It's only that centerpiece behind the frog that's glued, because I wanted those wings to be able to have some movement. And now I'm going in with the paints, metallic paints, and I wanted to just put some details on these wings. Can't go wrong with a little more shine, I always say. Do I always say that? I don't know if I've ever said that. So I'm adding some green here because at first when I put the gold up top, I made these two circles and they look kind of like eyeballs. So I put the green over it to smooth it out and, hopefully make it so it doesn't look like eyeballs. And then I thought I'll add some dots on there, a little pattern. And then I was going to try to get try to shake some little dots of gold onto the wings as well, like fleck some paint onto the wings. But I was using a very small brush, so it doesn't work too well. So instead, I just was like, I could just make dots with the end of this brush. It's so small. Just randomly put dots around wherever looks good. And then just a little detail on the antenna. And then I realized that I also had this lily, or not the lily pad, but the lily flower that I had made to go with this paper. And it was loose. So I thought, this is perfect. I can glue this on as well. And then we have a whole little froggy scene at the pond. So there we go. We got our pages done for today. We have our bookshelf, which is now glued in, and I added some white leaves in the background with the Posca pen. We have our bonkers flamingo, who is both texture and fabric. Get those shiny legs. And again, a future feather will be added when I find one. We have our ombre owl, who encompasses all the colors of like an 80s sunset. You could hear the synthwave music playing. And then our last page, we have translucent wings that can flutter and flap on our little frog. And that will do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you have an awesome day and you're up to something fun. And I will see you again soon.